Cyberpunk 2077's first post-launch update is here. As a few hours ago now, CD Projekt did release hotfix 1.04 across all platforms, or at least it's coming to all platforms. Right now it's available on PC and PlayStation 4, 17GB download on PlayStation, 1.5GB download on Steam, and a 600MB download on GOG. Unfortunately, it seems like there's probably some delay in the certification process on Xbox. If you don't know, when these companies push out updates, the actual console manufacturer, so Sony and Microsoft, have to certify the update and approve it on their system, so the Xbox version is delayed. CD Projekt says it's on the way. They're trying to get it up as soon as possible, so it is likely imminent. And on Xbox, I would expect something similar to that 17GB download that we have on the PlayStation side. If you're wondering why is this download so much bigger on PlayStation and likely will be bigger on Xbox, it's likely due to the patching method. On PC, they're able to give you the files you need, while on Xbox you have to download the whole file. So let's say they're just kind of changing a few aspects of something, you might have to download the whole archive again on consoles, while on PC you might be able to just download that singular file. So although you see a 17GB download, the true size of the changed files is likely closer to 600MB like what we have on GOG. It just included with those 17GB is a ton of extra stuff that you already had but now have to re-download. Unfortunately, this was off to a bad start though, as on Steam it actually broke your game, or it seems to be breaking a lot of people's games. At least at the time of recording, immediately after downloading this one, many people on Steam were unable to launch Cyberpunk 2077. Fortunately, it seems like there's a quick fix to this. Just verify the integrity of your game files. You'll likely have another 6 to 7GB update, and then you should be able to launch once again perfectly. There's likely some issue with the update they shipped, but this might be updated by the time you're watching. As far as what exactly this changed, right off the bat, a ton of quest improvements. There's a whole subsection of the patch notes that are basically all problems people were having with completing quests. Certain points where the quest would get hung up, one of the objectives would disappear, and it would be very frustrating. And several of these are pretty satisfying. Several of the things that were popping up time and time again and people running into issues, especially in the earlier quests you encounter. Another nice one is they fix some of the animation issues that NPCs would display during certain quests. It's kind of hard to test this and recreate all of these bugs manually, but I'm sure this is something at least some of you saw when NPCs would be doing something in a dramatic scene and just start glitching out crazily. From a gameplay aspect, they describe fixing the preview window and weapon crafting. Not a huge one. Visually, there's a couple of very interesting ones. They reduced vehicle appearance pop-in, so vehicles just popping up magically on your screen, near you, or next to you. That was patched out, and that's a huge one to get addressed. Although for me, this one is definitely not perfect. Going from the Badlands to Night City, I without a doubt saw some popping in the distance. It seems like it was easily better than before. I didn't have vehicles just appearing 10 feet away from me, but there's definitely still some funkiness going on in the distance, as you can see. Now maybe I'm crazy with this one, but vehicle driving also felt better to me in this update. It's nowhere in the patch notes, but when testing this with vehicle pop-in, I just noticed I was sliding around a lot less, or kind of fishtailing out of control way less frequently. Overall, it felt like my cars had a lot more control. Comment down below if you also noticed this after patch 1.04, as honestly, driving felt quite a bit nicer, but maybe I'm just crazy and it's all in my head. Although I did encounter this bug, which I have yet to experience. Otherwise, not sure if this is totally new, but definitely finding it a lot more while testing vehicles in this update. The speed by which you switch from first person to third person in a vehicle, nice little quality of life fix, but not a huge one. But then what will likely be the biggest of the bunch, improved stability, including various crash fixes. At first glance, this seems like a throwaway line. I feel like with many games, you get a line like this, but no, this is legit. So for me, at least on PC, I have a 5 to 10 FPS blanket improvement across the board, and it seems like I'm actually on the lower end somewhat. Both console users and other PC users are reporting pretty big FPS gains after this update, with some gains as large as 10 to 20 FPS on the exact same settings. It's a bit harder to test FPS on consoles, but many people are reporting that also on PlayStation, FPS just seems a bit smoother. The frame drops aren't nearly as bad in initial testing, and it's actually kind of crazy that just 2 days later they managed to get a fairly blanket FPS improvement across the board. I do wonder what exactly was leading to this and what they were able to change so quickly, but if this is a sign as to what's to come in the future, they had a very quick turnaround on addressing some of those FPS problems. I'm excited to see where FPS might land a few weeks down the line with even some more refinement and improvement, especially on consoles. Another one that is giving me a lot of confidence in the future, they do have a quick fix up for the brain dance causing epileptic episodes. This of course became a big story from one of the reviewers pointing out having major issues with this as she was playing the game for her review. CD Projekt added a disclaimer at the start, said they were going to address things a couple of days ago, and warning for those of you that do have problems with flashing lights, I am going to play the old and new version here. But you can see they basically reduced the flashing. Now it's just one consistent bright flash that kind of stays for a while, not a bunch of repeated or consistent flashes going back to back. They fixed the copyrighted song problem. So basically with the launch build of Cyberpunk 2077, even if you had copyrighted songs disabled, some would still play. Not just one, but several were still playing in the world. And it seems like they were quick to address that one just a couple of days later. So now if you do have copyrighted songs disabled, they actually won't play in the world. I'm really happy to see those two addressed in particular because they were last minute complaints. Two things that only popped up as issues in the past couple of days, and we already have fixes for them. Between that and the FPS gains seen here, it definitely gets me hopeful that the future will actually bear some fruit. There are a few other minor changes exclusive to PC or exclusive to consoles, the biggest of the batch being that improved reflections quality on Xbox One and PS4 to eliminate the smudge effect. In the immediate aftermath of this, PlayStation users are reporting the game does seem to look a bit better overall. It's kind of hard to gauge that. You could just compare gameplay. It seems like there might be some minor improvements here or there, but it's not like this is night and day. And before you get your hopes up, this is definitely not some epic day 2 patch that's going to vastly improve every aspect of this game and remove all bugs. Even in just the first 10 minutes or so of filming some background footage for this video, I had that PC bug that just crushes your FPS before you reload a save. It took me from 75 or so to then 20 to 30 and was just absolutely brutal. Some flickering and a few other minor bugs I encountered along the way. It is still very, very far from being a perfect game, but this is definitely a good step in the right direction. I'm honestly surprised by those performance gains. One of the things that definitely still does concern me about this all though is we are kind of on a clock. The holidays are coming. CDPR employees are likely getting off for several weeks and they definitely deserve it. They've had an extended period of crunch, 3 weeks of extra crunch that they kind of found out about a bit last minute, but it also does mean that updates will likely slow or come to a halt for a little bit there. So I really do hope they get at least some of the major problems, in particular on consoles, addressed before we hit that period. Otherwise, we may have a bit of a wait. Either way, I really think this is a good first step. The game's not saved by any means, but I think CD Projekt actually took, I would say, a good approach. People are getting frustrated. They weren't responding to posts. They weren't making a big statement, but I think this is a louder statement. Posting an update that actually fixes things, that will actually make your game and just about everyone's game feel at least slightly better. Even if it's just a few extra FPS here or there, it's showing that progress is being made. Now, of course, time will tell what the subsequent updates bring, how much progress can be made over the next couple of weeks, but hopefully this was informative for you. Hopefully you could test this for yourself and feel some of those improvements. But with that said, I thank you all again for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.
It even work. Said this place is abandoned years ago.